Hi, I'm Patricia Rawlinson with Creative Arts Lifestyle, and today we're going to paint this Country Joy plaque. I'm going to show you how to use stencils to make it look like, to make it be a snap actually. There's super cool ways that you can use stencils as masks as well as for filling in your paint. So we're going to have a lot of fun and it's going to go really fast and I think you're going to enjoy it. Thanks for watching. I'm getting ready to do the trim on my board, and I've got a big old non-stick craft mat here that all this paint will just kind of peel off of. But if you're doing this on your dining room table or someplace else and you don't want to make a mess, these little painter's pyramids are fantastic little guys. They're made out of nylon and they keep things off the ground so that you're not painting on your surface when you're doing edging and stuff like that. And there's a couple ways that you can handle this. I'm going to load my brush, and what I'm going to do is just kind of sneak off to the edges all the way around, hold this like a big old pizza pie, and just clean up my edges, and then I'll set this on here to dry. You could also place it on there and then hold it down and then do your trim that way. Okay, the sign of a quality project. You can elevate your project by just taking care of your finish and the texture of your surface. Everybody that receives a hand-painted gift always lets their hands do the walking. I don't care who they are. They rub their hands over it. So if your project feels like it's quality, you are going to have a much better project, even if you're not a very good painter. So what I'm going to do, I've got this surface is dry. I'm going to take a two-sided sanding disc, and they've got foam in between so that you can actually get into details. They last a super long time, and you can hear the roughness. So I'll just go and do that. Now listen to this side. Okay, totally different. Now I'll flip it over and do the smoother side, just right here. And now, okay, see how it's getting less? So, oh, and that's just so smooth. So I'll take the time to do a little bit of sanding, and that will make my painting that much better. Okay, and one thing, when you sand your project, don't worry about any of the scratch marks that look like they're scratchy. When you varnish, that will take all of that away. And we're still going to paint on top anyway. So I'm going to put one thinned coat of my black green over my whole surface because I want to do a wet in wet technique, and I want the black green to be wet while I'm doing it so that it can meld with the paint that I put on top, and that will make all of the paints look as if they belong in the family a lot better. Okay, and I'm going to make it nice and even. If you add just a little touch of water to your paint, then you'll have time to keep it open. Okay, now I've got my Hauser black green, or dark Hauser green, sorry, and I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to kind of squinch it up so I've got some interesting techniques, or not techniques, texture. So if you get a flat spot like that, munch it in. And now I'm going to come over here and I want to just create. I'm going to twist my hand around so I'm not creating all the same pattern everywhere. And then every now and again go back in, and right in the middle there you can increase the color. And then walk it out to your edge, but make sure you get that middle kind of blended. Okay, so mess up the edge. Two colors look so pretty together. Make sure you walk it out evenly all around because you're going to be able to see just a little bit of something going on. Okay, I'm looking for evenness. And I'm looking for getting a little bit of the pattern of the paper towel in that stipple. That's kind of interesting. It kind of adds a little bit of something else to it. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be able to, size-wise, that goes all the way across as far as I want it to. And I'll add just a little bit more. Bring it out. Booger off of there. Okay, I think that is good enough, and I'll let that dry. All right, the way that you're going to get your stenciling so it doesn't have any bleeding under is you're going to use a jumbo dauber, and you're going to take your paint and you're going to tap it off over on your palette just a little bit. And then you're even going to come over here on your paper towel and give it a little kind of squish push. Okay? And then you'll come over here and you kind of start in the middle. And then you'll go to the edges and you're going to go straight up and down. You're not going to shove towards your edge. That is how you are going to prevent paint from bleeding underneath your stencils. You're going to go ahead and give it a couple of coats. 2 is probably sufficient. I've got it taped in the corners so that it doesn't shift. Okay, you don't need to worry about these just being good for one project. You go ahead and you just squish it out in running water, in your sink, cold running water, and then you just set them aside to dry. Sometimes I even chuck them in the back of my brush basin and just bury them with my brushes to keep them from drying out before I can get to the sink. But in this case, I'm going to put it face down on my paint. I'm going to hit this with a blow dryer, and then I'll be ready to do my second coat, so I don't need to wash it in between. Okay, so we're going to use some nice little cheater techniques to shade and highlight our holly. What happens here, this is called really, now this is not a stencil, it's a stencil if you fill it in, but now it's a mask. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 different kinds of brushes. We're going to use a Crescent brush that is, it's shaved this way, and it's curved over the top. So it's very short, very dense, and it will get very skinny. You can use it fat or skinny, which makes it a wonderfully versatile dry rubbing brush. And then I'm going to use one of these dome brushes, and they are domed over the top, so they don't leave like harsh stop and start marks, which makes it wonderful for either stippling or whichever kind of stenciling technique. So we're going to go into a little bit of our paint. Let me get that on camera, just a teeny bit, and then we'll rub it off onto our paper towel. So dry rubbing is where we're going to eliminate most of the paint. Okay, and then we're going to use shape following strokes. We're going to get the center of our holly shaded. Okay, so we're just going to go right down the middle, and then after we get a nice kind of strong line, then what we'll do is we'll drag it out to either side so that it doesn't just stop right there. Okay, we can repeat if we think we need to. You want to use like a non-lint paper towel. So I'm using it on the skinny of my brush, and there's a flip down here which we'll take care of using standard floating and base coating, not base coating, but standard floating techniques. But this is nice because you could sit this down with your grandkids and you could just paint this project or just a rank beginner. So this is a really good way of getting all the way through most of the project and still having an excellent result. And it's super easy to do for those of us who just want to move through our projects. Okay, then we'll switch to our other brush, and we're in Hauser Dark Green, to our dome brush. And then this, we're going to do the whole back side of this leaf. And actually, you know, I'm doing this right now, but I think I want to do this after I get my highlights on. So ignore that step and do it after, and I'll show it to you afterwards too. Okay, so now we're going to take our mistletoe color, and we're going to dry rub our non-flipped leaves. Okay, this one's got a little flip. Okay, this one does not. So we're going to dry rub the tip and the tips of the points. And so we always want our dry rub stuff to be strongest at the outer edge, or we want to apply the strongest color, I'm going to put it that way, the strongest color to the strongest place, and then start moving in with a faded look. Because the strongest color is going to be where you first set your brush down. So go ahead and do those, and then when you've used up some of the paint, you can go and make your blends. Okay, and so that's what our little leaf is going to look like. And then we add a little bit of pineapple as well. And dry it off. Let's see how I was getting real strong color. Don't want that. Remember, the tips are first. It's real hard to remember that sometimes. And so see how that's getting a little bit chalky looking? It really looks like, oh boy, you've used an awful lot of yellow there. Well, my secret weapon is I'm going to go back into my green. I'm going to go over the top of it. And if that's not neutralized enough, or if that just neutralized, I'll go back one more time and basically we'll be glazing down those colors. Okay, so now we have a lovely little leaf. And then this is the point where you can go in with your black green, Hauser dark green. And you can darken the whole back end of that. And then that gives it a lovely, like I'm coming out of the middle of a bouquet look. All right, you're going to trace your pattern, and then you're going to take thinned mix of antique green and Hauser dark. I'm going to thin it to an inky mixture, and you're going to line these stems. It's like a 1-to-1 mix of the two colors. And the line on the stem is just going to give you a blueprint of where to track, where to put your strokes. Well, it's your stem, so it anchors the leaves as well. All right, then we're going to add our stroke work, and that's going to be nice, heavy strokes with a slightly thinned mix of the antique green and the Hauser dark green. Just like 3 strokes up each side. You can count them from the picture. And that one's just a little bit kind of heavy out there. I can make that either go away, or I can make the others mimic it. And I can also sneak in one more little one, just to make the graduation be a little bit better. Well, I have neglected to turn the camera on while I've been busily painting here. I got kind of lost in my own zone. So we've got our base coat put on with our dauber. Then we are going to go into the same exact technique as the leaf. I'm not showing you. We're going to go in with our dome brush this time because we want to do kind of rounded strokes. And you'll start out with your base coat is going to be honey brown. Then you'll go into milk chocolate to shade. And what you'll do when you're shading is you'll go up these edges with the milk chocolate, and then you'll start real dark at the edge, and then you kind of just soften with a little scumble. And then I've repeated with the antique maroon, and I'm just going for shape. So I'm deepening these outer edges, and then every step that you make, you want to go less coverage, less coverage, less coverage, so that it gets most strong at the very edge. Okay, and if you have any kind of really harsh line, you can go back to the color before and you can soften it down. Love that this is this forgiving. So see how that just darkened the bottom of that. Okay, now we'll work into our highlights, and I promise I'll show you those. And you can take a peek from time to time if you want. That's the beauty of taping. Come on. Okay, so that's what we look like so far. And I've got a little teeny bit of bleed under right here. So what I'll do is I'll just take my base color and just go in and straighten that out. If you get anything like that, you can just go with the base coat. Okay, you can also put a great big old spatter right there. Okay, so next we're going to go into our highlight color, which is Marigold and then Pineapple. And I'm going to go ahead and just wash this brush and get out a new one. All right, we've got our highlight of Marigold. And we're just going to start right here in the center. Now we've got this line that's going to be going through our bell, which we're going to do manually. So I'm going to kind of make that be a shape following that line moment. Okay, isn't that amazing how easy that is to get a good highlight? I'll do the same thing here. I'm going to start out small in the middle because that's where my color's the strongest. And then I'll maybe turn my brush a little bit, and then I'll start arching. Don't be afraid to go right over the colors next door. That's what's going to make everything look like it goes together. If you have a bunch of isolated colors not touching each other, I don't think they look as good. Now we'll repeat on the J and the Y. They're the same technique, so I'll just show you one. Right up the middle. And don't be afraid to have those colors sneak into each other. And then stronger right in the middle. Whoops. Okay, and then here on the ball of the J. And we'll bring it down in. Just finish that thought. Okay, now dirty brush, I'm going to go into the pineapple. And I'm going to give myself the final highlights. Sometimes you can just stipple to get it to do it. Okay, we'll do the same thing here in the middle. So we're going to start where the color is the brightest. And don't forget that bright colors can be dark, like their strongest is what we're talking about there. And there on the Y. Use a brush to get this up to peak. So we think we're liking it, then we can take everything off and then do our manual stuff. Now if we want to do a little bit of playing, I think we could go a little brighter with the pineapple first. Because it's going to contrast really nicely with that, the star that's going to be painted right there. And we've got a little separate stencil for that. So I can kind of guesstimate where. Okay, so I'm going to have to lift that up just a little bit. So I'll go back into Marigold. Ooh, keep it in the brightest first, then lift it out. Same thing on the bottom. Let's go ahead and bring that out and around. If you start getting any kind of pulling or lifting, then stop and hit the blow dryer and then come back to it. Because sometimes these, even though it's very dry, you can still lift. Okay, I'm going to go back to a little bit more pineapple. A little bit of shine up there. There we go. It's giving some real good roundness. Can you see it? Kind of just jumps out in front of you. We want these edges to go back. We want the letters to look shiny and sparkly. Alright, I am going to experiment and play with a little bit of the Media acrylic paints. These are super pigmented, so they're really strong, and I'm going to go with a color that's just a little deeper than the Antique Maroon. And you can see how strong that is compared to, we'll go here, very, very strong. And I just want to see if I'm going to like this, so I'm going to come over here where I'm going to be the strongest color and just do a little bit of something, something going on there and see what we think. Okay, I kind of think I like it. Let's take a look. Yeah, that just really gave that a little bit more depth. I'm going to add a little bit more. Your pattern packet doesn't say this. I'm playing. This is one of those artistic license moments. And then we can give a little bit of that at the top, the J, and a little bit over here. A little bit of this goes a long, long, long way. Okay, yeah, that's just got a lot more vividness. Okay, we're going to do the star details with the Antique Maroon. And I'm just going to kind of neutralize that color in there. I'll dry off my brush quite a bit. Okay, and then we'll just base coat using our stippling always tap on your paper towel, always, always. And then you can tilt your brush away from the edge towards the center as you go around, and that's going to help you. You do not want bleeding in the middle of your lovely round bell. Okay, then we're going to mix a little bit of black in with our, whatever that color is, antique maroon. And then we'll just do a little dry rub, kind of blending. Leave it a little bit lighter in the middle. I want those edges to be nice and crisp, like there's a cutout in the bell. Okay, and lift it up. Take a look, pretty neat. Now because I stenciled instead of base coating, I'll go ahead and just black in or black green in my cutout. And we'll do a little bit of highlighting up here. Alright, to give that the lift in the middle that it needs, we're going to dry brush using our round brush. So I'm going to, this is not dry rubbing, this is dry brushing. You could also dry rub it with the skinny little crescents. But I'm going to dry brush, so I'm going to load my brush, I'm going to flick it onto my paper towel, and then I'm going to just allow the brush to kind of whisk that color on, and it'll fade from side to side. I'll turn it around and do the other side. Okay, and that'll lift it away. We'll have to, of course, repeat with our pineapple color. And then we'll see if I can find some pineapple in my dried up heap over here. Flick on the paper towel. A little bit strong, a little bit more flick. I'll just drag that over. And because we're going to be floating, I can clean up my line just a little bit with the next color up, which is going to be let's see, what color is it going to be? Let's do milk chocolate first. Do a nice blend. I've got a short, bright brush. Make sure that your brush has been pre-wet so it has a little bit of moisture in it before you start blending. Notice I'm not trying to make it all the way across with one straight stroke. I can go a little bit back and forth to expand that. Now the bigger that line is, the bigger it's saying that your little bell thing is, so don't make it too big. Okay, over on our edges, I want to use a little bit of honey brown. And that just gives it that roundness all the way to the edge, but it's darker than the middle. If we wanted to shade that just a little bit, you could, if you needed it. Don't forget this is your project and you're welcome to do whatever you want with it. I'm going to go dirty brush into a little bit of the marigold, and I'm going to come down into the bell just a little bit. Staying in the middle of this little holder, and that's just going to give it some forward looking. If we wanted just a little bit more highlight on our letters, just to give it a little bit more ruggedness, we could kind of come down the letter, give it a little bit of a shine. Don't have to, but you can. we're going to take our branches and we're just going to kind of, I'm looking at my picture, and I'm just going to kind of drag those puppies out with some thinned milk chocolate. And then you want to kind of just like twist your brush as you're dragging. And that's going to give you a wonderful, which one goes in front and which one goes in back. That gives you a jiggity jaggedy line. Got it. My paint is thinned down so that I can have it be faded. Okay, and I'll bring it this way. I'm running out of paint. And then you can feel free to take those branches wherever you feel like you need them to be. You can cover up something or whatever you need. We're going to take our triple threat Ghost Rider and we're going to make our little twists. We're just going to sketch those on because they're super easy to sketch. And then we're going to give ourselves our details. This just comes in here. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll shade with our Hauser dark green. And we'll shade right up next to the flip. And then that's what will give us our little flip. Now at this time, if you want to see any of the leaves deeper on the back side, you can take your stencils and you can float, or you can just go with your stencils and flip. You can take your stencil and dry rub some more, or you can just float a little bit of detail. And just kind of glaze over what you've got there. And the neat thing about floating is it won't base it, so you can go over it without base coating it and getting rid of what you've, like the depth. It'll create more depth actually. Now I myself am not a fan of the kind of like fish scale stuff that I did on the original. So I'm going to take a little bit of black green that's thinned down and maybe mix it with the, we'll figure it out, Hauser Dark. And I'm just going to go ahead and give these veins. I like that better. Okay, then we'll give it its little side veins. We want to make sure that we don't do these real stiff. We want to have them have a little bit of arch. Okay, I'm going to go into my black green and I'm going to go ahead and shade down these ends just a little bit more so that they just kind of disappear. I want us guessing where that leaf comes out, like what's holding it in there. It's just poked deep in, almost like it's stuck into the middle of an arrangement. And because my background is black-green, I don't have to be super careful about hitting the background unless you got real bright with your fun finish, the paper towel. So I better be careful. That just pokes everybody in just a little bit more. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of our honey brown and I'm going to dry that off on my palette. I'm just going to kind of dry brush my branches here and there. I don't want them dry brushed everywhere and I don't want them filled up. I want this to be like a center highlight. If you need to do a little bit of the mix of the two colors so that you don't get it too strong, you can do that. I'm just going to go out and create a little bit of gnarliness. Okay, you're going to put in a little bit of Marigold, and I'm going to mix my Marigold with my Honey Brown because some days you paint lighter or darker than others, and I'm feeling like I just need that boost there today. I don't need it so bright yellow compared to what my painting is suggesting. Okay, I think we'll stop there. I think we'll let it lie until we see what kind of final things we need. Okay, so people without fingernails, this is a really cool technique. You're going to take the side of your pinky or the fat of your pinky, and you're going to make these berries. People with fingernails, you're going to have to go ahead and base coat them, trace and base. But I am just going to dauber them on, and I actually need to get rid of my lines before I do this. Okay, so we're going to take deep burgundy, and let me get my stuff up here so you can see. I'm just going to put the big dots will get the fat of my finger. Okay, and then the littler dots will get just a little bit less. And to make them be beautiful, they need to have a variety of sizes, so don't make everybody the same size. Okay, we're going to use the tiny little Crescent brush, and we're not going to wipe off as much, and we're going to wipe off more. Going to highlight the upper left side, and you can mix maybe a little bit of melon in with that. It's not quite bright enough for me. A little bit more. You'll be able to tell when you need to dry it off a little bit more. A little bit of melon, a little bit of country red. You could do one at a time, but then you're working twice as hard, so why do that? Use just the corner of your brush if you need to have a little bit more. Stipple if you can't rub, and that'll get you some quick highlights. Alright, we're going to repeat in the brighter areas, just a little bit more. With just a little bit, try not to go over everything that you just did, of the coral blush. Oops, a little bit too bright. Keep the bright ones in the middle, and then they're darker at the outer edges. You always want to do that. You want to keep your lights in your center of interest, and then as you get out here, you don't highlight as much. And that will lift this and bring it forward so that you do have a center of interest. If everybody was wearing bright yellow, then nobody would be the one, you know, in a room setting. Not a good analogy, that's okay. Okay, so and then if you want to do a couple shines, then you can just go into pineapple on the shiny center ones. Oops. And pineapple almost wants to behave. Okay, I'm going to take a compass, and I'm going to put a band around. You're going to keep your compass at the same angle, so keep it straight up and down. Don't make it splay out more. Whoops, I lost my lead. And what a perfect way to measure an oval. Alright, so now we're going to band this oval. So what I'm going to do is use my finger as a compass. I've got thinned deep burgundy. And then I'm going to go over in an area. If I start my line right here where everything is real open and spacey, then if I warble, people are going to notice it. So I'm going to go over here slightly off center. I'm going to put my hand down here, and I'm going to lock my pinky onto the edge. I'm going to not push down on my brush. I'm going to follow that line. Okay, when I start getting skinnier, I'm going to reload. Okay, so what an easy way to get your banding on. Okay, I'm going to line the left side of the letters with black plus a little bit of antique maroon. I really think I like them better black. The instructions say antique maroon, but whichever way. Oops, hi. Nice and confident strokes. And you just do all the left sides. Okay, on the stroke work, we're going to take a little bit of avocado dip, and we're going to dry that off a little bit more. And I'm just going to dry brush a few highlights. We want to lead these strokes back into the center. So like the highlights almost become like a path to get you there. So when you're highlighting, be creating your path. Okay, so we want all eyes to kind of come in. And we don't at any time ever want anything screaming at us. So we make it a little heavier, then a little lighter. So it's almost like opposite. Brightest things to the middle. I think I can dig that. Give everybody just a little teeny bit of a kiss of that color, just some fainter, just to give it a little bit of dimension. Okay, we're going to spatter, but we are going to keep our spatters exactly where we want them. So when we spatter, we're going to take our color and we're going to mix it with a lot of water. Okay, we want it inky. And then I'm going to tap off real strong, get you on camera, real strong, so that most of it's gone. Then I'm going to take a heavy handled brush and I'm going to anchor it in front of, I want my bristles to be just slightly back from where I want my paint to fall. And then I'm going to anchor this and I'm going to tap this hand in the direction I want things to fly. Okay, so I will turn it. I want my spatters to go out that way, and I want them on the ends of those leaves. I think this is one of the most important things I've ever discovered for myself, because it really manages the spatters and it really adds a lot to it. So I'm anchoring, and then my brush is back just a little. I want them to hit right here. So my brush is back. And there you go. They're just concentrated right on the end. You get a few strays, which is fine. The less you tap, the less spatters you'll get. So the softer you tap, then the less amount of spatters. Okay, now I'm going to repeat with less of the avocado dip. Now remember the thing about highlights. We don't want big avocado dip out here. We want it tucked up in here. So you got to be careful what you're saying with your highlights. So you can do a little bit out and about. Okay, and then our berries are going to be tapped with thinned melon. Add some other stuff in the middle, we can just tap, and then we're going to use a Q-tip to go clean off my bell wherever I didn't want spatters to be at. A light spatter does not belong in my dark shadow area. Okay, varnishing something that is of this size. This is my brush, and you can see that it's a pretty good size. It can be difficult to not get streaks. So what you can do is you can mix a few drops of drying time extender in your varnish, and it will stop the varnish from drying long enough for everything to level out, so your brush strokes won't show. So that's a really good technique to be able to get a good coat of varnish. It takes longer to dry. You might be an hour before it's dry. but you won't get the streaks.